o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Rissy,
Here.
trustee Nordhook,
Here.
supervisor Les Brunts,
Here.
treasurer Corstange.
Yes.
Trustee Nordike is excused.
The Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Motion or discussion for approval of tonight's agenda.
Move to approve the agenda. Shipley supports.
The motion by trustee Rizzi, supported by trustee Shipley to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no presentations, now's the time for public comments on anything scheduled for tonight's agenda. That would be an employee committees together, and also rezoning for the empty parcel on. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Nick Katzrellis, 2985 Berwick. When I was on Wycliffe trying to make a right-hand turn onto Cascade at 8:45 on Monday morning. It's like the worst time to try to make a right-hand turn. But behind me was, and Mr. Shipley, maybe you have a thought about this, a fire truck and a fire chief's SUV, and they had nowhere to go. And I didn't even occur to me that maybe there would be some contingency plan for driving down Cascade. But I just kind of stopped, and they were stopped because people had no place to go. And I'm not sure exactly what happened. But just something that we need to think about. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick.
Article 6, approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion or discussion? Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
So motion by or supported by trustee Shipley. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Article 7, financial actions. Is there a motion or discussion? And to approve the financial actions.
Support.
So motion by treasurer Corstange, supported by trustee Nordhook to approve tonight's financial actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no unfinished business, Article 9, first item of new business, 031-2025. Consider approval of a resolution for adoption of ordinance amending the zoning map for 1701 Spalding Avenue, rezoning this property to agricultural rural conservation, otherwise known as ARC. Manager Smith, is anything you want to say before?
Yeah, I'm this is just a formality. This is the second reading to actually adopt it. The introduction was at the last meeting. And this has been a pretty big topic for both the planning commission and the board for quite some time. So this is just to take the final step to adopt it.
I'd make a motion to approve the resolution to adopt ordinance and amend the zoning map.
Support.
Further discussion?
My question I have, did we have any other comments since the last meeting? No. Okay.
It's a motion by trustee Rizzi, supported by trustee Shipley, approving the resolution, adopting the ordinance, amending the zoning ordinance map at 1701 Spalding to zone agricultural. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Shipley,
Yes.
treasurer Corstange.
Yes.
Trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
trustee Rissy,
Yes.
Slater, yes, supervisor Les Brunts.
Yes, motion carried. Item 032-2025, consider adoption and implementation of compensation policy and wage study. Manager Smith?
Thank you, Supervisor. So when I started in September of 2023, and I started to work with the HR director in regards to hiring and retaining employees, and we found it very difficult to, one, recruit some people for our positions that were posted. Two, there was a lot of inconsistencies and inequities with the way that our wage scale was at the time. And it really didn't make any sense. I mean, you had some very large discrepancies between grade levels. And when I inquired on a policy, there was no policy. This is something that was probably decades in the works and needed to be rectified. So before actually implementing the policy, the appropriate thing to do was to actually do a wage study, which is what we did. So July of last year, we contracted with a firm called Raymond. They conducted a wage study of comparables, different comparables for every department. Because our department, we have some departments that are set up that are very unique. Our fire department is very unique than some communities. Our building department is very unique than some communities. So we tried to pull the most like communities and the most comparable communities and compare those wages. When I say we, I mean our third party. And they came back with a recommendation. So the recommendation then made us very competitive, right-sized where the grade level should fall. The employees had a full-time employee, and all job descriptions were actually reviewed by the employee themselves and the directors to make sure that, you know, if what they're doing today is indicative on their job description. Because some of these job descriptions went back to 2013, 2003, and they had never been changed. Well, we all know technology's changed, the world has changed, so the jobs have changed. So we put some of the onus back on the employees to make sure that they had the correct job descriptions in place. We then forwarded that onto the third party, who then took all the information and graded them as appropriate, as they should with the job descriptions that were submitted to them. So we got the wage scale, wage study back. And then the other part of that is the creation of the compensation policy, which is actually probably the most important piece of what we're asking you to approve tonight. This actually gives a structure to the way that we address pay and salary for our employees, the way that we can adjust for a change in duties, and it keeps it unbiased. It keeps it equitable amongst all employees, and it allows us to stay competitive. So we made sure that when we did this wage study, that we have a mechanism to rescore these and actually keep up and look at other communities through this process to create this. So there's part of the policy that if you read the package, I know it's a long policy, it's 26 pages, which I'm not a fan of 26-page policies, but I think it's really important because this actually then in turn gets put into the hands of people that we may be wanting to hire. And we want to keep our employees that are here, and then also for the current employees so they can actually understand what's there. So with that, the information that's supplied for you tonight, I can answer any questions. I feel like there's a lot of information here. And if there's any specific questions, I'll answer those. The one takeaway too that I probably need to make sure that you all know, no current employees are being negatively affected at all. So this wage scale, these are recommendations. They all fit within the current structure that we have as far as our employees and their salaries. Nobody's going backwards, everybody's moving forwards, but it gives us future structure too, to continue working on retaining our good employees and recruiting. Employees. One of the other things it also does is in the past, we have talked during the budget process, there was always a merit component increase for employees, and then there was a cost of living increase that was applied. I worked with the HR director on that, trying to understand the history behind how that was created and how that was decided. There was no rhyme or reason that we could tell as to why the cost of living was the way that it was, or the merits were the way that they were. So this actually spells out in here what we will use, which is a Department of Labor report to determine what the cost of living is every year. And the merit actually, part of that actually goes away with the increased steps that are suggested in the policy. So I know that was really quick for because we've spent 8 months on this. So I don't want to discount the process we went through, but definitely here to answer any questions.
I have a couple questions. So what you're saying is the merit raises were really subjective and not based on anything. I could give one of my employees a raise because I think they're so wonderful. They're doing so over and above and they're just so great. But the next clerk that comes in doesn't feel that way about it and they're not gonna give those kind of raises. And that employee's gonna be disgruntled.
Correct.
Because
I
it's
don't
very
wanna-
subjective.
Yeah, and I don't want to paint that with a broad brush, but that could happen, yes. It could be very subjective. And I'm sure there are some that did it appropriately and had some methodology behind it, but that wasn't across the board.
And it wasn't really documented.
No, absolutely not.
And then my second question was on your list of the positions that were evaluated. Instead of seeing deputy treasurer, is that something different, treasury service manager?
So the current state that the township is in, the treasury services manager is the deputy treasurer, and that will be slashed in the new pay scale that gets published. I wasn't here for, I know there were some
I think that
changes.
Your deputy was, the previous deputy was called something similar
Yeah.
as well. And then when Jen was hired in her position, it went back to the deputy role or the
Yep.
title.
Yep.
And so.
Yep.
That's what's happened. It's nice that they're at the same pay scale now,
Makes
which is
sense.
how they should be.
And I know, we talked about what was in the past, and I know that was done because of what happened in that position at the time. And just to make sure that we're all on the same page, this isn't about the person that holds these positions currently, it's about the positions.
Mhm.
So that if a position were to become vacant tomorrow, or we were to create a position tomorrow, it's about the position, it's not about the person holding it.
Do we have any budget implications for this year with this? If,
Great
If we're
question. I'm
moving
sorry.
forward.
Yeah, I should have said that as well, because this was all talked about during the budget process last year. And there was a allocation that was put into the budget for this study. And it's in here. I think it's in the RBA. It came in under what the allocated budget allotment was. And I can't.
Because we had no idea what the study would show. So
okay,
we
Do you want to
did
speak to
account
that, Lori?
for it in the budget. Under that,
Sorry, Scott.
Oh,
I
no.
know it's in here. I just had to put my finger on it.
I don't need specifics. I just wanted to make sure that it,
Yeah, it was accounted for
Yeah,
in the
it does.
budget. We just had no idea what the study was at because we had
Okay.
no preliminary, nothing at that time. So we did budget.
Correct. Thank you. As I stumbled, the question was answered. The budget, the 25 budget was put together that in each fund that pays for wages, there was a lump sum line kept in a contingency area, so no department could tap that money. So there is more than enough funding in those contingency lines that during the year, I'll do an analysis based on new wages when those are published or come out from HR and distribute those dollars, those contingency dollars into the budgets that need them. And of course, the board has to approve all budget amendments. So you'll see that, but that will be money moving. It won't be any new money introduced. There is definitely more than enough funding in the current budget to cover this new plan.
excellent, well done. I'd like to study. Good
Okay.
job.
Thank you.
If, is there, so can you go over the process? If it's in this policy, as I read it, if we've got a current employee whose current duties may be inconsistent with the position that's described in the studies, or if a current employee feels like the duties are not consistent with their position, what the process would be to look into that?
Absolutely. So part of this new policy is actually when someone feels that they are performing more duties or their director feels like they're performing more duties, there's a process we can go through. One, we'll analyze and look at the job description and see what changes need to be made. They also will fill out what's called a job analysis questionnaire, which will take their job description. They need to go through it and track anything that's significant, that is in detail, that they're doing now that isn't indicative on their job description. And the reason that's important is because what this is set up, and it's in this policy, there's a 10-point factor scale now that keeps it very, very fair and very unbiased, where we will plug in all of the duties that they do, and it'll actually assign it a point value. And that point value then equates to a grade level onto the wage scale. It sounds very confusing, but it's actually pretty easy. It's literally putting numbers in or putting keywords in and key job duties. If they have supervisory duties, if they have a public facing position, there's lots of factors. I can't even go into all of them right now, but there's lots of factors, and all of that is put into this methodology. And the only person that actually sees that to keep this fair is the HR director. I haven't even seen it. And I think that's actually a good process because it keeps it to the point where we can't say exactly, I really like this person, and so I'm going to bump them up a little bit. Or, yeah, I want them gone. I'm not going to do that. But if they're performing their jobs, and if there's a performance issue, that's a whole nother conversation that needs to be had. But that's separate than the factor. Correct.
A lot of comments. Hopefully I can read all my chicken scratch notes that I wrote down. One, when I first started 2 years ago and was appointed as treasurer, Jade, and then also put on the Personnel and Finance Committee, I was in the same boat as you were. And I think Grace can attest to this, that some of my comments when it comes to our previous policies were exactly the same as yours when they started. And I don't want this in any way to be a reflection of our HR director in any way. It was the direction that was given to her. And just so people understand, at points there were sticky notes that were written that were by a previous manager and given to Katie with direction on what to do, because there was no specific policy and no specific direction on how these things are worked, or how, you know, positions, people's pay are decided when we offer positions or when people get merit raises or anything like that. So this is a long time coming. We've had to be patient to sit back and wait for a third party to perform the study and do what needed to be done, so it's done right. And I think that's great. And I just thank you all for taking the time and the effort that was put into this. I really appreciate it. And I think the employees will appreciate it too. And the residents, because we're doing the right thing. Just looking here, again, important to note, it was a third party that did the analysis and that looked at all of these things. I think that's really important for everybody to understand. I think our goal is to be competitive with other municipalities and to get and retain the best employees that we can. I think we have a high standard here in Cascade, and I think it's really important that we have policies and things in place to get and retain those employees that we want. Just personally, I don't love that there's no merit-based increase, just because I do think people that are doing really well should get paid really well. But I understand the reason behind it and the rationale behind it, what has happened in the past, and the fact that we are also competing with different municipalities that are union-based. And I think that that also plays a huge role into how raises are given in other municipalities and how we need to be doing things here as well. I also think that this also puts the onus back on the directors and our manager to make sure that we do follow up to make sure that our employees are performing up to expectations. And if they are not, that we are holding them to that expectation through the appropriate process that's laid out in the policy. Just looking to see anything. Oh, the only other question I had, just reading through the policy, and this is just an open question. You guys don't have to answer it tonight. I just think it's something that maybe we need to consider. Reading through the benefits portion, that we only offer benefits to our full-time employees. I just don't know. I know we have a couple of part-time employees at the township, and I don't know. I know in a lot of organizations, they do offer benefits to part-time employees, they have to pay more on their contribution side. So it's not costing us any more in that sense to offer employee benefits to them. But it's just something I just want to open the door to see if it's something that maybe we should look into to offer to our part-time employees, because they do a great job, and I don't know, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, one of this, and actually I just talked to Lorna about this yesterday, and Katie and I have had multiple conversations. We're gonna be looking at all of the benefits and how those are distributed. Part-time is on the table as well. And then also some of the other benefits we have where it's all or nothing, and maybe sometimes it need to be prorated for people that aren't quite 40 hours or 20 hours. So there's a lot of things that we need to reevaluate.
And I personally think about the ones I see, but then I don't know the fire department side of things, but it's also, it could be an opportunity for the fire department. I just know scheduling 24/7 is a nightmare. And if something, when it comes to part-time for our fire department as well, if that benefits them, if there are benefits allowed in some sort of way to get employees to cover certain times might be beneficial. So just my thoughts.
With that all said, I make a motion that we adopt and implement the compensation policy and wage study as presented.
Support.
Any further discussion or questions? That was a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by treasurer Corstange, to adopt and implement the compensation policy and also accept the wage study. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 033-2025. Consider approval of resolution to rescind the resolution, basically to combine the Parks and Pathways Committee together to be one committee, which requires rescinding two previous resolutions, which adopted those or created them, and then just for a little bit of background, prior to 2020, people would refer to it as a pathway committee, but it wasn't a formal committee like the Parks Committee, or there was no formal bylaws or any membership. It was more of it was just a group of people came together, offered feedback. That was before my time. Then in 2021, the number one source of complaints and frustration from residents was by far the pathways or lack of maintenance of the pathways. At the same time, parks was a huge source of concern too, or public spaces, the lack of maintenance of those public spaces. We didn't have the staff necessarily to be able to handle both of those issues. The Parks Committee had their hands full with different parks issues. So the Pathways Committee was created, and it was very helpful in getting things going, prioritizing maintenance projects. They did a huge job getting us forward to where we're at today, with over 6 miles of original pathway being redone. They did and at the same time, we also needed to get the right staff in place to take care of the paths, take care of all the public spaces, and that took some time too. But we now have a very competent parks and facilities manager, and we have an in-house engineer. So we're at a fraction of the cost. And the public spaces are getting a lot more attention, whereas before they were really neglected, and we were spending a lot of money on having the wrong people. We want to be respectful of people's time, both at the board level, residents who are volunteering their time, and staff's time. And the number of meetings of the Parks Committee and the Pathways Committee compared to the substance of what we've got going on right now isn't an efficient use of anybody's time. So we also have some vacancies on the Parks Committee. To be fair to everybody, and also so that we don't miss a beat as far as staying on top of our business, we're going to combine, or I propose combining those two committees in one. And all of the existing members will be then brought on board. For a while, we'll have more people, but we can taper that off over the years as people drop off. So it doesn't require cutting anybody. that being said, I think we've got between the engineer, buildings and grounds, parks and facilities, and then the good group of people we have that volunteer their time. I think it's a better use of time, saves some unnecessary meetings, and we'll still get everything done. Any questions, concerns?
Just a couple comments. Having served on the pathway committee, I just want to shout out to everybody on that committee and hope that they move into the newly formed committee if we move forward with that. And I also just want to say that, you mentioned pathways and the things we've done to kind of improve them, but a large amount of that work was done by engineer Eric Thorne, and he deserves a mention for that because he put in a great deal of time and effort to get us to where we're at now.
Yes, and we still need the public feedback, so we need the committee, but realistically, we don't, because we've got Eric, but we do, right?
Right. We don't need to do near as much, so.
I have one question, just. And stop talk. He was one of the people that had mentioned to me when I used to sit on the Parks Committee and the Planning Commission. So I'm just questioning bylaws when it comes to number of board members on the committee. Because I had to resign from my position on the Parks Committee and on the Planning Commission at the time when I was appointed to the board. So we will have to.
I'm the board rep.
So that's what
that.
I'm saying. So can he stay on having two board reps on when I had to resign from the Parks Committee as a resident when I was appointed to the board? So that is my question.
So I'm the board representative, and he was, he
I
was a
can
planning
pass.
commission. Well, you don't have to, because you were the planning commission rep, so when you became trustee,
Yeah, but I'm saying. that
Right, what
when I
she's
was on
saying
the
is-
Parks Committee, I was a resident representative, just like Scott is now. So I'm just questioning the bylaws to make sure that we can have two board members on that committee, because when I was appointed to the board, I was told even as a resident. I
Wait a
had to
minute.
Step down.
On the parks, or was this for the planning commission?
Oh. I had to step down from both of them and resign from both
I
of my
remember that.
when I
Oh,
was
okay,
not. So that
because-
is my question.
So
I just am talking about the bylaws, because my understanding, and Scott pointed out to me at the time, that I had to step down.
That's what I was told.
Yes.
without so the planning commission is its own. There's statutory requirements, and by Michigan law,
Yes,
you
but I'm
cannot
talking
have.
about the Parks Committee.
But the Parks Committee is more of an ad hoc committee, so I don't remember if the bylaws address that, but you would have more flexibility on the,
I'm just saying,
on an-
I think we just need to clarify, because I was told both the Parks Committee I had to resign from because I was appointed to the board, and we cannot have two board, and I was a resident member of the Parks.
so one, on behalf of the board of trustees, I apologize, that could have been wrong. And I just am not sure if it's in the bylaws.
If I can just ask a clarifying question, were you a member on the Pathways Committee as the Planning Commission rep?
I
Yes.
believe that was, I don't think it was as a planning commission rep. I think it was as a planning commission rep.
So that
And
takes
you're
care
not
of,
on the Planning Commission.
right, so
Was I-
that takes care of it. I believe.
Yeah,
But I can verify all of this.
No, it's already in my head, I already,
Okay.
I mean, you could, no, that would be nice if you could verify it.
Okay.
To confirm,
I don't think anybody else was on the planning commission was on the pathway committee. You're probably right.
it was
Yeah.
because then we had a Parks Committee member also. Mike Reese was the.
Right.
So you may not have needed to be bumped, and I don't remember that from the Parks Committee, but you did have to be legally, you can't be on the Planning Commission and the.
But again, I'm just saying, if somebody can clarify, because I was told I had to step down from both, and I resigned from both positions once I was appointed, because I was told we could not have two board members on the Parks Committee.
Okay. And that may be because of the bylaws, but I don't know, because I don't think it is that. I think it says you must have at least
And do
one.
we have to have a Planning Commission member on the Parks?
No,
The new bylaws, this new resolution includes
Included,
the
but-
new bylaws, and that there was inconsistencies between the two, so it was omitted.
but it was appreciated at the time, and I think it was helpful.
What's that? My input, oh.
He's fine.
That was,
Oh.
I'm sorry, he's got me. I'm like, which way are we going? now?
Nice, appreciate that.
I'll look into it.
Just let me know if I'm supposed to come to any meetings. That's all I need to know. Just tell me if I'm on a committee or not, and I'll be there.
Okay, and then the parks.
No love lost.
And at the time, so there was discussion because some people have referred to parks as, pathways as linear parks, which kind of a goofy term, but it makes sense. But at the time, the Parks Committee did not have the capacity to take on the issues that were going on with pathways. So that's why we created a separate one. I think not the case anymore. The Parks Committee does have capacity to bring that into there.
And I think the pathway committee is kind of had a list of goals and we
100%.
worked through the majority of them. And I think predominantly what was left, I think staff is working on with, you know, we've done a lot of the ground. I think that's kind of what we were rounding the corner on that. And that's pretty much, you know, my thought was that we would finish with that and then, you know, I figured the committee would be consolidated or disbanded, I should say, as had been done in the past, when they had the past millage approved, they got rid of the committee. So, but you know, that was my opinion as chair, that's not the opinion of the entire committee. There are some there that felt that it should continue on and down the road.
And the millage for the pathway is at 2027 up for renewal?
I believe that is correct.
I believe that is correct, so we need to vote on it in 26.
Okay.
Right.
And until that time, there's not a lot of funding left in the pathway.
No.
Correct.
I think at our last meeting, we talked about the millage and then we talked about the railings on the bridge and I don't think we've had a meeting since then.
With that all said, I make a motion that we approve the resolution to rescind resolution number 10 of 2023, resolution number 5 of 2022, and resolution number 23 of 2022, and create a new Parks and Pathway Committee and adopt the bylaws and rules of procedure.
Second.
That's a motion by trustee Shipley to act as stated, supported by clerk Slater. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Rissy,
Yes.
trustee Nordhook,
Yes.
trustee Porcello,
Yes.
trustee Shipley,
Yes.
yes, Supervisor Les Prince.
Yes. Motion carried. And thanks for all the procedural work that went into that behind the scenes to make sure we did it right.
Yes.
With that, Article 11, public comments, whether the issue is on tonight's agenda or not. Welcome. Please state your name and address for record keeping. And limit your comments to 3 minutes. Good evening.
Hi. Ken Vanderkark, 7200 Layton. I'd like to thank you all. I finally got my park bench at the dam. Thank you very much. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mean the picnic table?
The picnic table finally ended up there. I got a place to sit and the fish and take my little friend over there and have a good time. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tom Richardson, 3438 Applecrest. I want to comment on the housing situation in Kent County and Cascade and its connection to the zoning revision that the board is working on. In short, I want to encourage the board to make sure that the zoning revisions support, all the needed housing that Cascade will need in the future. Just the background is that it's pretty common to hear anecdotes about that there's a housing shortage or that housing's too expensive. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but there's a couple of organizations that have generated a lot of data about the need for housing in Kent County. One of the groups, housingkent.org, has documented the shortage and the lack of affordability. That housing costs have risen faster than wages, that most renters or a good number of renters pay more than they can afford, and houses are, and even entry-level houses are more than the median wage earner can afford. Their estimate is that countywide, 34,000 homes are needed between 2022 and 2027. This is a couple-year-old report. And they estimate that 70,000 are needed countywide by the year 2050. A separate group, housingnext.org, has data broken down by the city of Grand Rapids and the rest of Kent County. It's also broken down by rental housing needed versus for sale homes needed. And it's broken down by the income level. Their estimate is that there's 15,000 new homes needed in Grand Rapids over the 22-27 timeframe, and then 20,000 in the rest of Kent County. Now, what does that mean for Cascade? Well, first of all, Cascade doesn't have its own separate housing market. It's part of the county. So, but if Cascade wants to do the right thing for the whole county we're part of, then you know, how much housing would be needed in Cascade specifically? And, you know, I can't say what that is. I think that's a good job for the people working on the zoning revision to try and develop a rigorous estimate of what's needed, both short-term and long-term. But just a rough estimate using my math skills, Cascade has about 4.2% of the population of Kent County outside of Grand Rapids. And the Housing Next estimate estimates the amount of new homes needed. So I'm not considering all homes here. And 4.2% of their estimate of the homes needed outside Kent County is about 650 homes over that 5-year time frame. That's about 120 homes a year. Back in, I think, February, the planning building department presented the report and included the number of new home permits over the last 7 years. And I think the average was about 40 per year. So the current status is we're way under the actual housing need by my rough estimate. But please don't trust that estimate, get a good estimate. But really, I think it's important, you know, as you look at your plans and you think about, okay, not just what areas do we want to encourage housing, what do we want for specific areas, but also do those plans meet the overall need that we're going to see in the next, 25 years? Thanks.
Kenneth Carey, 2929 Thornapple River Drive. I was walking my dogs today at Les Tassel Park, and the bridge crew was just breaking up, and I asked them how things were going. And they said they just finished pouring all the sidewalks today, so we're making great progress there, I think. Is everybody on the board happy with the progress that they're making?
It's inconvenient, but
They're meeting their deadlines and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's you'll never know whether it saves lives, but it's sure gonna be safer. And, at General Motors, we always function on your brother's keeper. And everywhere I go, I'm always looking for, things that could go wrong. And that bridge was, I just think it's gonna save lives. And it's gonna slow traffic down too. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody for that because it's a great project. And I really think it's going to slow people down. I don't know whether you have any. I think it's going to encourage that. So I told the construction workers there that I thought the board was very happy with their work, but I wasn't sure. So I'm glad I kind of,
walk
okay.
there tomorrow.
Yeah, so all the sidewalks are done, and I think that that's probably the last thing they do. Maybe so.
They're gonna, so the road commission at the county level is using this opportunity to also resurface the road part.
Sure.
So that'll extend the length out
Right.
of the project a little bit.
2 different projects. Our project.
I know, but as far as,
Right.
Sorry.
But then it would be nice to have that all resurfaced.
It sure looks good. It does.
And reline.
And I want to thank
nice.
everybody because it's gonna be safer.
Yeah, the
So-
outside railings will be replaced too, but they're waiting until after their project is done to put
Right.
those in, so they're gonna,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Anyone wishing to comment virtually? Article 12, manager comments.
Yeah, just a couple of things. The first item was actually the Cascade Bridge. I just wanted to let everybody know it's moving on time and on schedule, or on schedule and on budget. And I guess to answer the data question, it is slowing traffic down right now, but we won't know that for another few months because but yes, the Kent County Road Commission is going to come in after our project is complete and actually redeck the bridge itself. So we don't have a lot of details on that as of yet, but that is something that they've informed us that will be happening. Everyone keeps, it still keeps asking about the Tuffy site and the Tassel Park process. We've finished the concept plan. I'm in the process of writing an RFQ to hit the streets for final design and engineering for the Tuffy site and Tassel improvements. So that'll hit the streets. So hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll have those back in a decision on the architect engineering firm that will be doing that and continue the process moving. I also wanted to say that there's been lots of conversation about what to do with Friendship Park. It sits empty a lot of nights. Treasurer Corzange had some conversations and input on this as well. But we are announcing 3 concerts this summer, starting in June 12th, July 17th, and August 7th. Sydney, who is our program specialist, has been working hard on securing some bands. It's going to be free for families. They've got a variety of different bands coming. They've got a cover band, Americana artists from Nashville, and then kind of one who's a musician and storyteller. So it should be a lot of fun. They're all going to start at 6:30 at Friendship Park. We just kind of finalized things today, so we'll start getting the marketing out there and the communication out so everybody can come and enjoy the park that needs to be utilized more.
Are we, not that this is what it's about, but for the concerts, are we gonna do walkable alcohol license during that time?
We're talking about that. We've got to go through the state and there's a lot of logistics with that. It's not that we can't happen. I think we wanted to get these going, so that will definitely be something we'll look at in the future. It could happen by the end of the summer, but for the first one, we don't have enough time to secure that.
Even, not that I know. No does across the
Mhm.
street, right? I mean, they have a
No
liquor
does.
license, so just wondering, even if it's something where they could serve wine of some.
They
sort.
can't, because their particular kind of licenses is for their location only, so they cannot serve another location. But the state does have a process that we can go through and get a license for the day for these special events.
Okay.
And it's pretty easy to do. So we will look at that. Because we've talked about possibly doing some food trucks along Jack Smith as well, and just making it a really fun night for families to get out in the summertime. I believe these are Thursdays, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I believe it's
that's what they-
Thursdays, yeah. That way people can still do it during the week before they take off for the weekend, and school's not in session during those times.
Awesome, thank you.
Jade, is the alternative to getting a license for the event to create like what do they call it, like a social district or something?
We could do that as well.
But
Yep.
That's what I was wondering, if we did a social district where somebody could go to
Yep.
Thornapple Brewing,
Right.
because those are all walkable,
Yep.
very close.
And that absolutely, and that's something we've talked about with the village, and there's a
Mhm.
process to go through that. Where I was at previously, we set
They
up a
both
social district.
Sell pizza to go, so.
Yep,
I mean,
sure.
How can you go wrong?
What does social district mean legally,
Why
that
don't I
you
get my
can't, that you can
pizza?
do that without?
Yeah, so there's a process we have to go and apply through the state. The board would have to vote on it first. You basically map out an area in the village area and then up to the library, the park, and include some of the restaurants. And what it does is it allows you to create this boundary or district where you could actually carry alcohol. You have to have at least 3 participating restaurants that will make the district actually function. And then each of them has to have a very unique cup. And there's a lot of signage and processes you have to go through that the state mandates in order to get this license.
It's also like Cascade Roadhouse,
Mhm.
another one with good parking down there, so if people
Right.
wanted to start
Yep.
down there, park.
Park,
And
yep.
then walk up would be another option as well.
I just went back to our old hometown this past weekend and participated in the social district. It was very fun.
So you can
So-
walk.
Exciting because it
Oh, yeah.
also offers the local businesses an opportunity to sell food and drink
Agree.
possibly for people to be able to walk to these concerts and enjoy the food and
Mhm.
drink and then sit
Mhm.
and watch a concert outside, which is super exciting. I think it's what our community really wants.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jade.
Yep, I think it's
Love
gonna be
it.
great.
Awesome.
Easter egg hunt went well.
Oh, the Easter egg one went great. Yes. Everything can be tweaked. You know, every year you find something you want to do a little bit differently. So, but yeah, overall it was a huge success and we had people that actually came into the office the next day and were thanking the township for doing that. And actually returning their eggs so that we can reuse them next year. So we actually put a box now in the lobby and it says egg return here and it's almost full again.
Good.
So, which is great because now we don't have to go buy them again next year. We can just reuse them. Yeah, kudos to Dan and Sydney for pulling that off. For sure.
Awesome.
Board member comments. I see Shipley.
Always stand up and thank my employers for being here tonight, taking interest. And yeah, we take interest in all your comments. Nick, you're always welcome. You're always bringing fresh views to us. And Tom, you too. So Ken and Ken, you're terribly quiet tonight. I don't understand why. But thanks for being here tonight. Come back next meeting and bring your neighbor.
I had a quick question. I guess this kind of goes along with what Jade was saying a little while ago about the roads, but when you had a conversation with the road commission, did you hear at all about the schedule for Buttrick? I know with Buttrick being closed, that has put,
You know-
that has really lengthened the delays for the bridge
Yeah,
project.
So we just had a luncheon with them today and I overheard Jerry. Chris, did you hear what he said?
No.
I
just
missed
heard-
it. It's starting next week, or they should be complete next week, I believe. They're just
Okay.
doing an overlay, going from 28th to
Cascade,
Cass.
or actually Whitneyville, I think.
Yes,
Yes. And actually, the Whitneyville Cascade is completely down to dirt, so they must be
Oh, yeah.
redoing that
Yeah.
whole section.
Right. It looks like they're getting ready to remove all those curbs because they had somebody come in and saw cut them a week or so ago, but
Yes.
they haven't taken them out yet.
yeah, I will say, I think once we get it all done, I mean, they've started it now, but I think probably a better coordination with our project probably would have been better. We didn't have notification of this project up until last week. So by the time that we were notified, it was well underway. And actually I was notified first by staff who couldn't get their kids to school and then we inquired and we're like, what's happening? And then that's how we found out. So.
Okay. Thank
Just a great meeting. Thank you.
Towards later.
No comment.
Got one other thing too, on the news, past couple days, they were talking about the Grand River Greenway continuing
mhm.
and heading out towards Lowell and Ionia. Have we got any plans in that, or which side of the Grand River?
Yeah, so it's, oh, you're gonna ask me directions
The
now.
pathway committee worked on that
Yeah.
and I went to some of those meetings and they were in our township. They're still, at last I heard, at the last time we had a pathway meeting was the last time but they were working to secure an easement with the railroad or potentially the property owners along the river.
So that would be our side.
Side.
Right, for that segment along the Grand River, because the county had essentially told us that it would be, when I went to the meeting down there, on the non-river side of Grand River Drive in Cascade Township, it'd be along that hill, if you will, all the way up to Snow. Yeah, through Peace Park. And so the hope was to get it on the other side, so you don't have to cross the street, because it connects to the bridge that's at Grand River Riverfront Park in Lowell. And so the idea is to try and get everybody to go on that river side of the street, so you don't have process.
Right. It would be nice though for the trail system to go through Peace Park area for them to be able to use that, but I
Yes.
get what you're saying.
I think
You don't want the Kent County Greenway traffic to cross that road.
Right.
Actually, our Parks and Facilities Director just went to a meeting on that by the county with all the parks directors from the county yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him today. So I know that it's still being worked on, I believe. Cascade section is the last section actually to be complete, and they're running into some real estate issue, not, I don't want to call them issues, but it's taking longer for the real estate acquisition in our area. So that is, and it's a county project. We'll obviously be there to support it, but I don't believe that there's any financial ask from the communities for that, as far as I know.
And they
I
already
think we have
have,
to maintain it once it's built.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We also have in Brow Park there too.
Mhm.
Correct.
We're not allowed to use.
Unless you
We
join the
can-
Forest Hill
we
Central
can meet
rowing.
you.
Oh,
Well,
moving along. I've made my point.
But that will be, yeah, no extra cost township wide at the county level. They've got that project. That's good.
it's a great project.
Mhm. Treasurer Corstange.
No problem.
Appreciate the comments tonight. Thank you for coming and thanks for sharing your thoughts and questions.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Support. Motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Treasurer Corstange to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We are adjourned 6-1.
I never.